So if you're a coach, a high ticket coach specifically, and you're really looking to scale past at least 100K plus months, and you've been trying all these different strategies, I want to share what I've seen from businesses ranging from 500K even up to $1 million a month cash on a simple strategy called Instagram shoutouts, and how they're leveraging that to really optimize and scale to start booking calls, closing calls, you know the game, and just really taking it to that next level as well. All right, so first things first, what are Instagram shoutouts, right? You probably heard this before, but what are they exactly? Instagram shoutouts is a simple strategy where all you're doing is you're paying a different page that is similar to something that has a similar audience that you may have as well. And all you're paying for exchange for is for them to post that you give them specifically and essentially give you a shout out, right? If done correctly. So again, I'm just going to break this down in regards to what this looks like. And obviously, once you start going from there, you book calls and then closing calls, so on and so forth. But I'm just going to break this down to a couple steps so you know the step-by-step system of how to implement this strategy as well. First things first, like where do you find these pages? That's like one of the most important things, right? Just a couple examples that I've seen with businesses, right? Like there's one business that I'm helping scale and they just broke their, 100K month not too long ago. Or even close to that. And, they're a CrossFit business. They have a specific page that they leverage a lot called Make Walls Great Again. I've seen lots of B2B businesses past 500, 700K plus months using a page called Wealth, right? And they get to pay a high ticket dollar for that post, but they have millions of followers. I've seen other businesses use, different religions as well, like pages like Christianity, other religions as well, because that's, very similar to their audience that they're using. But all you essentially have to do to find these pages are to go to researching different hashtags, different, influencers in your space, check out who they're actually tagged to, right? Because on the tag portion of the Instagram page, you can see if they're tagged or they're affiliated with any other, business or other pages. You can check if they're using shoutouts. And or you could also follow these people of larger followings, different affiliations. And what you actually can do is when you actually are starting to follow them, Instagram's going to give you different suggested ideas. And from there, you can actually start following these pages and then figuring out if they're willing to do shout outs or not. Again, these typically have larger following. So I would say start off with at least like 100K following. I mean, if it's very super niche, right, as to who your followers are, it could be anywhere as low as 50K. But again, I would definitely test at least 100K, 500K, 1 million followers, so on and so forth. Obviously, it's going to get a little bit more pricier if you have more followers as well. So again, one of the first steps are to reach out to these pages. Right now, again, I just showed you how to find these pages, what that would look like, but reaching out to these pages, after you find these pages, it's very simple. Honestly, you don't have to complicate this. All you literally do is just message these people. Sometimes in their bio, it'll say, DM for shoutouts. Very simple, right? Don't complicate this, right? When I was looking inside of this and I was meeting, with different people of how to do this and, buying these programs and masterminds, I was really astounded how simple it actually is. Literally what you do is you just DM them, hey, do you do shoutouts? Right? They're going to respond yes or no. Follow up with them if they don't respond, obviously. Great. How much per post? And then what you're doing here now is where you're going to just negotiate, right? They're simply going to give you an answer. They're probably going to try to, highball you because, you're a new person. Like if they're charging 200, they probably want to say like 300. This is where you negotiate as well. The frame and the perspective, how you're messaging these people with negotiating is just looking at it as a long-term relationship and probably buying a bundle first. Right? It's actually important to buy a bundle first because when you buy a bundle, then you can test out 2 or 3 different posts for a price that you have, and you can, negotiate to keep that price and tell them that you're looking for really a long-term relationship, right? So if they give you like a higher price than usual that you feel like, isn't probably in your budget, or you're like, man, like I didn't think like, somebody who had 50K followers wants to charge like 500, 1,000, 2K for a simple post, right? Then you're just going to say, well, I'm really looking just for a bundle. I'm looking just for a long-term relationship. So how about, if they're giving you 300, you're like, you can maybe go at them with 200 or 250 and then, go from there. Again, I'm not going to explain too deep into this process. You all can figure what that looks like as well. Now, the next step would be obviously creating your post, right? So with this is very important because you don't want to have a post that is call to action friendly towards booking a call, right? This is what people's main intention or whether their attention goes towards to naturally, right? But you want to have a call to action for following you as a follower. So what that means, and the difference is if you have a post that you're creating and it's for these people who are looking at these at your shout out page or your shout out post to book a call. I mean, think about it. What are the chances of somebody new, seeing a post that, that they trust from a page, right? That they're going to book a call and then they're going to buy? Probably not that high, right? But what are the chances of them to actually follow you? So all that simply means, well, obviously the answer is high, right? So all that simply means is in your post, make sure that you have a call to action that isn't to book a call, but that is to follow you. Typically what I found have been Twitter thread posts, like sharing your story through like a reel or like a video or a picture or a carousel. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you first share a story, just examples that I've seen that have worked really well of, how you have reached success or how you've gotten results for XYZ students, whatever metric that is, whether like, let's say like you're teaching them how to create an ATM business, right? And you're like, here's how I created my own ATM business and scaled to 50K months in just like 8 months, right? Now I'm teaching other students. And then like, you want to have the call to action at the very end that is mainly to optimize for people to follow you. Now, how do you do that? You just end up having like the last post, just saying, follow at your Instagram name to learn more. And then in the captions, you want to have follow at and then your Instagram handle. So again, it's optimized for them to follow you as well. Now, what's super important within this process is, again, the reason we're doing a following call to action is because they're new and they're going to go into your nurture sequence within your organic content. I'm going to explain a little bit later of how to optimize for that so you can get them to book calls, right? But it's also very important that typically you want to have content pillars that you're using for your own social media, page as well. And I've shared some in another video that's labeled content ideas and how to scale past 100K months using these content pillars. And what you're typically going to do is when you create this post, typically the posts that are going to work the best on these other pages are going to be the ones that are already working best on your page. And if you have content pillars, you can really hone down, optimize, and find those type of posts that work. And then you're going to make it call to action friendly for a follower or a follower to actually follow you, right? And that can get kind of tricky the way I'm wording it, right? So after you created your post, you're taking that from one of the best posts that you have from your page. You're making it call to action friendly for somebody to follow you. You have the captions, follow, at your Instagram name or handle. The next thing that you want to do is you also want to set up your frameworks for your bio to be done in a correct way. Now, what does that mean, right? Well, think of this. If somebody's going to follow you, right, they want to have a way that they're going to eventually want to book a call after they start seeing your, content pillars, your content that you're posting on a daily basis, your call to actions, all that stuff I'm going to talk about a little bit later, right? And an easy way for them, instead of just, responding to, some sort of story or, you having a direct call to action is for them, once they feel like they're ready, they know that all they have to do is a simple action. And that simple action is simply making sure that in your bio, you at least have one line of your bio that has a keyword for them to message you. You've probably seen this on other, larger pages or other businesses that you may follow on social media. And that's the main reason why they have that, because they have a system for them to book calls from there. So, if you're in e-commerce, you can just say e-com. If you're into fitness, you can say like results or now. If you're in any industry, honestly, the word now or results can be an easy line that you can use, right? So you can just say, who you are, what you do, and then something along the lines of like DM me now for, mentorship or for, to get access to XYZ program or to learn more or to get results, right? And that's going to be super powerful because what's most likely going to happen, there's going to be some followers that are deep in pain and they're going to look at your content and probably scrolling through that for a couple hours or like 30 minutes or the next couple days or weeks. And, when they're ready, sometimes they're even more ready sooner than later, then they already know what to do. And they already kind of have that glimpse of like, this is what I need to do to actually, learn more about what they do in regards to buying your program as well. So that's the next step. You want to have that foundations as well. And simply, The next step after that is you want to simply post on those shout out pages or shout out page if you start with one, and you want to start tracking. Now, again, the tracking in the beginning is going to be super important to track for followers. And eventually you're going to start tracking, how many book calls you have, per week, per day. And eventually, the return on ad spend. So like if I'm spending $200 per post for that week, how many book calls did I get? And what was my return on ad spend? Was it a 5x, ROAS? Was it a 10x, so on and so forth? But the KPI that you want to get to that I found that has been super helpful, and I've seen businesses use to actually track, is something that's at least around $1 or less, right? So if you're spending $200 for a post, or if you're getting 200 followers or more, right, that means it's going to be $1 or less. An easy way to track this, have a simple Google Sheets tracking sheet. Doesn't have to be complicated, guys, right? And then, say you start seeing your followers at 8 a.m. your time zone, and then you have that post at like 10 a.m. and you start tracking, okay, well, this morning it was this number, right? Like, let's just use a simple one of 100K. And then the next day I found that I have, 200 more followers. And then that you're going to just put that in a simple spreadsheet and just, do the calculations there. And then that's going to really make sure that you're being able to optimize, and I'll talk about what that looks like later, to understand what posts are doing better than other posts or even other shout out pages as well. Next up after that is you also want to make sure that you have the right foundations for your whole system to be able to book calls and close calls as well. What does that mean? So what I was saying earlier during this video is, I'm going to talk about what this looks like, right? Well, this is now what I'm going to talk about what this looks like. I mean, think about it. If you're going to post on a shout out and you don't have the right system to book calls, close calls, have the right call to actions to book calls, like all these different things, it's just going to get sloppy. So you have to have these systems first as well. So make sure you have the content pillars. Remember, I have another video that talks about content ideas and the 3 main content pillars that I've seen businesses scale from 100K, 500K plus per month. Make sure that you have multiple call to actions per week. This could be on your stories. It could be direct, indirect, on your news feed or on your feed, different polls, like different votes that can generate conversations. But mainly, right, most people typically have at least some sort of aspect of that. Mainly, make sure that you're very attentive, that you have at least a DM setter, or if it's you right now, but that you're active on messaging these people when they respond to you or they open these conversations or when you generate these conversations, right? And also make sure that you obviously, in a position that you have a closer or yourself to have time availability to actually start, having calls to actually close these calls as well. So having availability to have sales calls so you can have that open net for people to book calls and have the availability to book a call on your calendar. If you don't have these 3 or 4 systems in place, you're simply just going to get more followers and optimize for that. And people aren't going to be able to have a system for them to be nurtured from the content pillars, take action to book calls from the DM setter or yourself, and actually close calls. Obviously, if you're not taking sales calls, or you don't have a closer with full availability or at least part-time availability to close those calls as well. One of the last steps, say you have all these steps in place, where you found out where these shout out pages are, you're posting on them, you're tracking, you have the system in place, you're taking it from your content pillars, all that good stuff that I've said previously. One of the last steps is really making sure that you can optimize and scale this bad boy up. Right now, this is the most fun part as well, because if you're at 50, 80, 100K per month, 125, 150, 200, whatever you're at, honestly, if you have all the foundations in place, all the KPIs and numbers in place, you know what's working, you know what's not working, you're really dialing in, right? Again, you're scaling this bad boy up, right? So this last step is optimizing and scaling, right? All you have to do is when you find something that's working, probably that's at least a 5x, but most likely towards like the 10x, ROAS or ROI, depending on how you want to track it. Just put more budget to that bad boy, right? Like if you're paying, $200 for a post and you're doing that once a week, why not do it twice a week? Why not do it 3 times a week? Why not do it 7 times per week? Mainly put more budget to have more frequency of posts. But then another thing you can do is obviously reach out to more shout out pages, keep testing. When you find more shout out pages, what I found that has been super helpful in businesses that are at least doing 500K a month cash collected are posting every single day. So they have, the same thing I talked about content pillars and content ideas, right? There's different days for different content pillars, right? Which again is in another video. Monday will be one shout out page, Tuesday will be another shout out page, Wednesday, you get the idea, right? And the only thing you have to do after that is just make sure that you build the team as you're scaling that as well. Because when you're scaling that, the marketing side of the shout outs, getting more conversations, more, messages, more book calls, obviously more followers, and you're just running the system, then you just need more DM setters, more closers, so on and so forth, right? So again, just wanted to share this, what's on the inside, the real nitty gritty stuff that has been super, super helpful in what I've seen, masterminds, courses, programs. People sell this stuff for like 10, 20, 50. I've even seen like 60K per year plus, right? And I just wanted to share what this process looks like. So if you're at 10, 20, even maybe 50K, or even like 100 or 200K per month, like what can you do to actually scale this to the next level? Well, you can implement these shout outs, and hopefully this has helped you as well. Again, I have another video that really breaks down like the content pillars. It's going to be under content ideas, how to scale past 100K months with the stuff I've seen on the inside with organizing that structure for content. But again, hopefully you all enjoyed.